Everyone wants more money, but most of us weren't taught how to create an abundant life. That's where the More Money Show comes in. If you're ready to have more money, create more freedom, and experience more fun, turn the volume up. It's time to learn how to create the prosperity and life you have been dreaming of. Here's your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the More Money Show. I am your host, Cassie Parks, and today I have with me, as part of the Year of Growth series, Michele Reynolds. Hi, Michele.
Hi, Cassie. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So as you know, Michele, she helps people live a healthier lifestyle, so you can always connect with her on that. And we're going to talk about scripting in her business. And this is going to be an interesting interview because Michele is super brave. I love my clients all my clients are brave because really you have to be brave to step into a new story, right? And so they all have to be super courageous and super brave. And Michele is that today because we're going to talk about what happens when you're not doing the work. And probably you're going to get to hear some live coaching. So we don't exactly know what's going to happen, but we're going to jump into it. So I'm still going to start the same way because I always believe this sets the tone. So even though I know what we're going to talk about, I'm going to ask you what's awesome right now.
Well, I have a whole bunch that's awesome. So I am $75,000 wealthier.
Yay!
Yes. I paid off all my credit card debt. So I only have one outstanding loan in my name for I own. And so that will be the thing that I work on. And I signed a new lease for 12 months in the home that I'm in, which I love. And I signed up for kickboxing and I paid for the whole year at once. That was pretty fun. And so I've gone to 6 out of 7 days of kickboxing. So it's been very fun.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for you. Yay. All right. So anything else has happened since we last talked and we last checked in this interview series?
Well, I haven't done much since then.
So that was about a month ago, I would say, right?
Yeah.
And maybe 6 weeks ago. And so just, since we're being honest and courageous and brave, like what happened? Like you just talk about what happened.
So my last, 10 months have been kind of a whirlwind, and I kind of got this influx of money and I was like, okay, I'm good. I can stop trying for a little bit. Cause I felt safe and I felt secure and I just needed a minute to breathe, but I know I need to keep doing the work, but I just couldn't find it within me to I was like, okay, I'm good. Can I just breathe for a little bit?
Yeah. And so do you feel like, because I say that's okay, right? Except for when we just take a breath and we don't come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so do you feel like you're in this space where you haven't come back? Like you don't know how to get back?
Well, and this is part of the thing. We were doing some scripting about my future life, and I realized since the last time we met, that something that I really, really wanted to be the case, maybe isn't. And it made me go, so every time I write it, it kind of makes me sad. Here we go again with the tears. Whew, already. But it makes me a little, and just so you all know, watching this, I'm a way emotional person and I cry more than anything. So, it makes me, I know that it's that or something better. I know that, but my own makeup, my own body wants to cry about it, that's maybe not going to be what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I stop myself from doing what I need to do because I'm holding on to what I want. I'm trying to control it is really what I think it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm controlling it so much I can't let go for what's better, the this or that's better. And it's like, I don't know that I trust that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's super important. So there's so many things I want to kind of go through with for our listeners. And first of all, it's like Michele said she's super emotional. I would say emotional when things are breaking apart. Like it's okay to be it's okay to be I'm an emotional person. Like, I'm the one, if somebody's giving like an amazing toast, I cry too. And I also know about you and working together that this is what happens when we're making forward progress, right?
Yep.
When things are breaking down, we're moving into that space, we're going to heal it. So that's one thing I want to address.
Yes, that's true. Every time that's true. So every time I get this way, there's a shift. We're mid shift.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. I've talked a lot about on Manifest It Now recently about some of these things that people don't tell you. And they don't tell you is like when you're growing, this fits into that is we've learned this is what happens mid shift. We've learned this is it's just what happens. It's not good or bad. I think it's good because we know it's where it's leading, right?
Right.
It doesn't always feel good, but it is what happens. And so it's one of those things where we know, okay, cool, this is moving you forward. So this conversation is moving you forward.
Right. Can I say something with that right there?
Yeah.
So, and without a coach, I would just stay in this place.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Will you say a little bit more? Because I know what you mean, but I'm not sure that's clear to everybody else.
So, getting in a place where I know I'm not doing what I need to do, without a coach, I would stay in this place way longer than if I worked with Cassie, because Cassie won't let me stay here forever. First of all, but she doesn't, I don't want to stay here forever because this is it's like I am opting to stay comfortable instead of moving through this, what appears like pain or emotion or change. And, without Cassie to hold my hand through that and have it be okay that I get emotional, I would just stay emotional.
Yeah. Right. Just stay in this place where it's emotional instead of move forward.
Right. And when I'm in this place, things don't go as well as when I just move through it, or we have a tough conversation, because we've had to have many of those, because I like to do things my way.
As we all do.
Yes. But it's when we get to those points, like we know that about each other now, like, okay, we need to do a call. We need to do whatever. But every time I work with you, even if it's like a 5-minute phone call or a group coaching call or an interview series, it always moves me closer to the life that I really, really want to live every single time. And I always find money comes to me. I manifest money. Someone gives me something. I get new clients, like every single time. So it's like, you think I'd be like living with you practically.
Right. I would always think that was interesting, because that's always been true, right? So even before I do what I do now, Michele was a client, and every session that we had, which would be in the past, would be few and far between, right? I mean, probably 6 months at least.
And you know why? Because I told myself I didn't want to spend the money on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And which is so ironic. I actually was having a sort of an email conversation with a potential Enchanted Circle person about this. And it was so interesting because you would get a new, like literally guys, when we would get off the phone from a session, we used to do phone sessions. We'd get off the phone and you would email me back or text me. It was even before text was super popular. So when this is happening.
Yeah.
And you would say, I got a new client. Well, like somebody would sign up under you and your network marketing company while we'd be on the phone every time. Right?
Every time.
Yeah. So I didn't plan on talking this, but looking back, can you see a little bit, I mean, you said like, it was like, I didn't want to spend the money on myself. And do you think that was just like, I didn't see myself as worth it? Or do you think that was because you always got the result? It's super interesting because a client was way more valuable than what, money-wise, exchange-wise, it would be more money than what you paid.
Yeah, I think there's two things happening there. Is self-worth was much different than it is today. And my money mindset has shifted because then I was in survival mode. So I held on to everything I could as long as I could. And, it wasn't worth the investment. Like I would have never paid for a year of boxing up front right then, because my survival story would have been like, oh, you probably aren't going to be able to go to all those classes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It just shows up in different ways, whether it's money or time commitments or, commitments of any kind. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely was your old story.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's so ironic. It's like, I got to hold on to it because the story was so strong, I think is the point I wanted to make, is that it was so strong that you would hold on to it even though you knew you were going to get more money, right? It happened every time. Like, so you didn't know for sure, but it was enough of a pattern. But it was like, I'm not going to trade, $100 for 300 because I can't let go of the 100.
Right. And when we didn't do it often enough, like I did it like every 6 months, that pattern might have been obvious to you, but to me, 6 months ago was a very long time. Like, I don't even know what well, actually I do know now what I did 6 months ago, but then, I was like, that's a luck thing. Like, this happened again, like random, I'm like, now it's no question. It's like, I'm expecting my phone to ding here in a second for a new client.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that we got to talk about that. So let's come back to what we were talking about. And okay, so take a breather and you get money. And I think this is important to mention, is that that's also a little bit of survival story. Like, I think we do need breathers at certain times. I'll go full force scripting and I will take a little bit of break when I do certain things. Right. But it's also part of that. It's like, oh, there's a big pile of money. I'm safe. So I don't need to keep moving forward in some ways. Do you think part of that's what's going on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no question. Cause it's like, okay, it covered the survival story, like, you're safe, you're okay, you can breathe for a minute. And it's like, okay, now I got to gear up the momentum to do this again, cause I know there's greater things, but it feels like effort. Like, not that effort is bad, but it feels like more effort than it has more recently in our work together. It's just like, oh, but I'm good right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's old. That's, even though you've grown so far out of that story, it's still, and even mine too. Like, I can see my money story come back when I'm growing, right? When I'm like, okay, got to get through that. And so even though it's an old story, like the I have to relax when I have money is super still present. And that's the part which is cool. Now, so we dealt with the whole, we changed, like, I have to hustle, I have to do everything, I have to overexert myself so that I can get money, right? But now we have to embrace that I can relax and move forward slowly, steadily, how it feels good, right? I can relax and still be moving forward.
Right. And on the other hand, yes and no, because what I really want is to, just know that money's there and it's just there, and I can grind and like go become a gazillionaire. Like, hello, so I love that too. And it's like, I don't have to, I get to.
Definitely. But I even say, for this survival story to go away, you have to let go of the grind. Like, because grinding is actually what creates your survival story. So when you grind, then you exhaust yourself and then you become like in survival mode and money's coming in. And, because grinding is part of your survival story, right? It's like, I can go work hard. And even though we shift the words, like, oh, I get to grind, that's where your growth is going to come in, because that's what's keeping you from doing it is, oh man, I got to exert all of this energy, right? If I'm going to grind and move forward versus, okay, I can step forward at a time and be relaxed and still be a gazillionaire.
I'm hearing you, but I'm obviously not there yet. Cause I'm like, really?
Yeah. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I do. Cause I'm like, cause it's just like words to me. It's like my everything about me, my body, my system is like, yeah, I can agree and shake my head, but I'm like, sorry, not there yet. I'm still grinding. Like,
yeah. Well, what is it that you love about the grind? What makes you feel safe about the grind?
Oh man, I got to think about that question. Hold on. What makes me feel safe about the grind? It makes me feel needed. and it makes me feel important. And it's comfortable for me to know that I worked my butt off and like I filled my day as full as possible. It makes me like, it's so comfortable to me.
Mm-hmm. Which is so interesting, because what I know about you is that what you want to create is, you have this beautiful picture, if anyone is friends with you, of this house in Maui, and you want to create this space where people can come just be.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't line up, so it's not a match to grind and be creating that, right? They don't that GPS doesn't go there.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear on that, because I do want that Maui house.
Mm-hmm. So say more. So is it like, okay, I'm more, what just happened? Was it, I'm more open to listening because I want that? Or is it you get, or do you fully get how they don't match up?
Both. I just kind of saw that, like, you're never going to get Maui if you keep doing the things you're doing, is what I kind of heard. And I was like, well, wait, I really want Maui. So, okay, how do I do it different?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I do know how to be. And I think, and you tell me your feedback on this, because if you look at my life, I don't even know, a year ago compared to now, like now I don't start working until 10 a.m. and I'm done at 3 and I work out between 10 and 3 usually for an hour, right? So hour and a half. And I in my past, I was bed to 1 to 2 in the morning. Now by 10 o'clock every night. So I think that I've changed a lot, and I definitely am being more, but during the time, like, so between 10 and 3, that's still grind mode for me, but the time is shorter.
Yeah. So here's what I see from the outside, is that I see all that to be true, and in some ways what I think is true. However, we have this thing called Facebook now where I see a lot of grinding behaviors going on there. Okay. What seems like grinding, right? What seems like, I think in your mind, you're like, yeah, I only work 10 to 3. I think if you were really honest and you wrote down every single thing you did that was working towards, and I didn't mean to like quote, I just meant like,
you can air quote, it's fine.
Some things feel, just because it feels good doesn't mean it's not part of the grind. And so that was why I kind of air quoted the working towards, because I think there's a list of things that you're doing that I've seen you do, that I watch come through my feed, right? That are a little bit still in the grind, but and everybody does this. Like, we can justify it in our head that like, oh, but that's fine, it's not really work. But if we really added up, what's the intention behind it? Like, is the intention part of the grind mentality? Is the intention, I have to work hard to get this? So even though I might find it fun to do this behavior, like, am I working in the grind, or am I being in Maui, right? Am I being in that space that feels like Maui? Am I in that I'm just here space?
Yeah, that answer would be no.
You want to explain? Because
yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, yeah, I mean, the Maui space literally is, oh my gosh, it's this amazing, beautiful, open, fun, relaxed place where we just have incredible times together. And there, if we do work there, it's momentary, it's here and there. And most of the time it's just being together and having a life and just, eating well, playing well, like, and, though there's pieces of that in my day is not in Maui.
Right.
My day is in Greeley, Colorado.
Well, and more than location, let's talk about Maui as a, you can call it a mindset, a state, a feeling, right? What percentage of your day is Maui? Feels like Maui?
2 hours.
2 hours of a you're up for, let's just say 14 hours because you do sleep,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
14, 16-hour day, right? So that's an 8th. And we want to get that space. And it doesn't mean, I think what a lot of people think that means is like, well, then I don't do anything. But it's not that you don't do anything. It's the energy that we take with it, right?
Mm.
Because when you're in Maui, when you think about being in that Maui space, that Maui feeling, no work is going to feel like grind. Like there is no energy, not even a threat of that, right? Because there's this higher level of trust. Like you already know it's happening. There's what else is involved in that space, would you say?
Oh, well, people, like there's lots of people there, and togetherness and, love and communication, and just, again, just being like, if something comes my way, I am just going to evaluate if it fits or not. And I'm okay to say yes, and I'm okay to say no. So lots of choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when we grind, do you feel like you have a choice?
No.
How come? And I have a thought. If you don't, I just want to say.
Yeah. Well, the feeling that I get when I grind is the time is not my own.
Yeah. Oh, that's so.
And in Maui, the time is always my own. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like taking some notes because
me too.
This is a coaching session, right?
I know. I'm like, yeah. Me too.
And woohoo. So, do you understand why, if you want Maui, you can't grind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But how do you transition that? Like, I know we talked about it doesn't matter doing things it's just a mindset. So like, as there's, pardon my French, but more crap to be done than I can possibly do. How do you stay in Maui mind? Like, oh, I'm in Maui.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So I think step 1 is you evaluate, is there really more crap than you can do? And is that crap what you want? So there is, like, you have to run your business and your virtual assistant business, right? Like there is that. And so you evaluate like the crap list. Like, okay, what is?
Oh, hold on. We're not calling the VA work crap. Let's just be clear.
Oh, no. I just mean like what feels like, but again, you made a very good point, right? Is what happens is we put all of our work, we put all the stuff we have to do, and it feels like all this crap I have to do, versus separating out, okay, this is VA work and I'm appreciative and I love it because it pays my bills.
Right.
This is, and then you look at it and you say, okay, this is a bunch of stuff I'm doing because I think it's going to get me somewhere, and it falls under the grind, and you get rid of that. And you look at the other stuff, like taking Danelle to school, and you say, this is what I get to do because I love it and because I have freedom, right? And so instead of taking that pile and putting all that stuff together and saying, all this stuff has to get done, you look at it for the truth of what it is, right? And be very intentional about what makes it on your actual list, right? Is this something I have to do, or is this something I think I have to do because I want to get somewhere, and really it's part of grind and not Maui? Right? So like, there are going to be things, there's almost, people I think make this mistake is like, once I have so much money, I won't have anything to do. You still have to manage things, right? When you have multiple houses, when you have whatever it is your dream, you're still going to have things to do. Right. And so managing certain things is part of Maui, right? Managing certain business tasks is Maui, because that's always going to exist. It's just in your own time. But really looking at what other things can you actually get rid of on that list, so it doesn't feel like that pile and everything's getting called one thing, right? Because I did it now and you caught it, which I love. But I'm guessing you've been doing it for weeks and not catching it, right?
Yeah. And like, I just stepped off a board, and they just gave me so much crap about jumping off this board. I'm like, it doesn't take me where I'm going. Yes. And they didn't understand, and they didn't have to understand. So so I have been doing that, where I am looking at it and going, does this have to happen or not? So I guess I need to give myself a little more credit than I have.
Yeah, I think you need to give yourself a little bit more credit for what you've created space, and then really still look at the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
So number one is like really looking at that list.
Yeah.
Like, what is all the things I think have to be done? And in looking at them from an energetic perspective, and either can we change the way I frame it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning take it out of just like all the crap kind of list and appreciate it, or can it be gotten rid of because it's part of the grind?
Right.
And then I think the second, and this ties into the first, is really looking at everything, like stopping before everything you do. And this takes time and this takes patience, and really going, why am I doing this? Like, why am I getting on this right now? Why am I doing this? And for you especially, we've talked about this before. You're part of an amazing network marketing company, and you're amazing. And we've talked about there are certain like things you're supposed to do in a network marketing company,
Mm-hmm.
most of which I don't think move you forward. And so it's kind of looking at all the things we think we're supposed to do and seeing like, is that what moves me forward? Because we know, and you've had proof of this, and I want to see if we can find some, that when you are in your Maui space, people come to you.
Right.
When you grind, you might find some people, but they're, you get them, but it's different, right? Like,
Right.
and obviously, like if we can be in Maui and we can get people and we can grind and get people,
Mm-hmm.
which is your preferred method?
Oh, definitely Maui. Yes.
Yeah. And I think you've taken some steps to do some of that. Like I have seen some of those steps too, like where I've seen you take things that we've talked about off of your plate and
Mm-hmm.
share the load, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of, what are some examples? And I'd say my last gentleman that came to be on my team, he's not someone that I even recruited. So my upline recruited him, but he lives local in my city. And so they sponsored him and they placed him, which, so they put him directly under me because they know I'm going to be the person that works with him. And so, I spent, the last week really just investing in him and training him, and because he's never ever done network marketing, which is so fun because he knows nothing. And so I can mold him exactly how I want him to, and like what works, what doesn't. Like he doesn't have to have 12 years of mistakes. And so he's probably the most coachable person I've ever worked with.
Awesome.
And we spent 2 hours yesterday, when we spent more time than that, but 2 hours yesterday just on the phones, and then 2 hours today, and just showing him, like teaching him like my very best. And he's, like I said, more coachable than anyone I've ever worked with. And I do think he will have one of the biggest organizations on my whole entire team.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I didn't have to recruit him.
Yes. Right. So right there's evidence that can happen without, it can happen by being instead of this grind, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would love, even I want to go and talk a little bit more about scripting, but I would even look at like who you recruited when. Like, was this the time I was grinding and who showed up? And was this the time I was Maui and who showed up? And I'm guessing the people who do the most are going to show up. Like the people who are most motivated and the most creation are going to be the ones that show up when you're in a Maui space.
Yeah, it's interesting as I think of because I think I recruited last year 68 people personally or so. And of that, I have about,
because you're awesome.
Thank you. 14 or so that are like building, and 14 different legs. And as I think of the 14 legs, I just want to pull out a few examples. So the very first gal, I was definitely grinding, and she built it big, and then life happened. She went away, and now she's trying to come back. And then the second person I recruited, third person, grind, she's quit the business. One gal that I was interviewing for a VA client to hire her, because I do recruiting for that client. She just said something during the interview, and I was like, wait a minute, I got to show you something. And I went and got the products and I showed her, and she was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And so I wasn't trying, I was just kind of being myself. And she joined. And she's building. And then another leg that's building. I was in my last company with her, and she'd been watching me, and she signed up, and she actually has hit a company designation, and she's going to have a huge organization, and I've not even worked with her. So that was definitely Maui. So,
yes.
Yep. And then another gal that's really building, I called her one day, and it was just when I was doing my thing, and maybe it was in the grind part of it, but she's a dear friend of mine, and I pulled her out of a casino, and she's like, nobody gets me out of a casino. What do you need? And I was like, I have to tell you about this. And she joined, but over time, we don't really, like, she'll show up to meetings and we do life together, but she's become such a dear friend that it's fun now. Like, we have fun. So even if nobody comes, like, then we turn it into a fun thing, so it's just a little different energy, and that does feel more like Maui. So those are some examples. Yeah.
I love that. And that first example that you shared is total survival story, right? Mm-hmm. I go all in and I grind to the top, and then I fall off because I'm exhausted. Mm-hmm. Right?
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight that for people listening, is like, when we create in that story, we get that story back. Mm-hmm. And obviously you've given us lots of examples of when you create in Maui, you get a lot back, right?
Yep. That's true. That's great. Great. Like, when I call people now, because the other thing I do is I send out a ton of samples of our products, and my old grinding self, because that's what we're going to call her now. Yeah. My old grinding self would have been like, okay, it's day 7. I need to call them. Let's see what they're doing. And like, I have sent out 40 samples in the last month, and I haven't called on any of them. But some of those people have called me and ordered, right? Yes. So I'm like, if they don't call me after they get a sample, try it and like it, like, I'm not going to beg them to take my products. Like, if they can't, because I say on the thing, like, hey, call me when you get this. Nobody calls me when they get it. Let's be clear. But there's been a couple people that out of the 40 some that have called me back and said, okay, I want to order, or, hey, I need more information, versus me stalking 42 people.
Right. And let's put this in an hour's perspective. So I often think people are, and you're taught this, right? You're taught to stalk, you're taught to follow, you're taught to follow up, you're taught to all do all this, right?
Yeah, of course.
I know we're not taught to be and attract. That's something we have to learn and we have to commit to. But so from an hour's perspective, because I like math, like, yes, how many hours would the follow-up take on 42 people?
20 hours.
Yeah. So and how much follow-up did you do other than like talking to these people who bought, right?
Half an hour.
Right. So it's a half an hour for money, right? Making whatever that was, and you can share or not share, it doesn't matter. But like, for that amount of money, versus you could have grinded another 20 hours, and that maybe you would have got one more person, but would it have been worth it? Right? Like, one more, I don't know, $300, $500 for 20 hours, right? Yeah. But most people don't. And I think in the past you didn't stop and see it that way. I think you're getting really good at that. Like, seeing that now, like,
yeah. I definitely have let go a little bit of like what I think I have to do, you know? So it's like, it's, I would say it's really, for the network marketing side, yes. For the traditional business, the VA business, no, I haven't. So that's something I need to look at. So
that's true, right? Because the same thing is happening. I just know from personal conversations, right? The same thing, like, I got to grind and spend this much energy for this amount of money, is happening still in the VA business, which is cool.
For sure.
Because like, if you've mastered it in just like letting go in your network marketing business, like, now we can do it in your VA business. So we're just at that place where we're going to grow into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
So do you have any follow-up you want to ask on that? Or do we want to circle back and just talk a little bit about scripting and sort of that letting go of what I think it is? And
I have a follow-up question. So when the list is long of things to do, and again, they still need to be done. Like, I do love serving my clients.
Yeah.
But how do you make that feel like Maui? Like, is it just that I'm grateful that they're my clients, and, just have a different, like, before I instead of be like, oh my God, I got this long list of things to do. It's 11:11. Thank you. I thought I turned that off, but obviously the alarm wanted to scream at us.
Right.
So sorry about that.
Important time.
Yeah. But like, is there something I can do before I start the long list to help me have the Maui mindset?
Yeah. So own that you get I think one thing is just remembering before you start is like, this is my choice to, like, this is the time I choose to work on this, right? Because it goes back to Maui. One of the big themes is I'm in control of my time. Like I do that. And so remembering like why you choose this time to work on your stuff, why you do it now. I think I would also be cognizant of if you're doing anything else during that time. Because I'm curious. I think that there might be other things that are getting done. And so it's like, okay, I have this time, but other things are sneaking in and taking away from that time.
Yeah, sometimes. But I'm pretty good about, between like, for me, that, and I say I don't work till 10, but between 8 and 10, I'm definitely doing my business, my network marketing business.
Yeah.
So let's be clear.
Yeah.
I definitely am. But so it's like when I get to take care of me, take care of my household, and do some stuff that it feels like attraction to me in network marketing business. And then literally it's like, okay, it's 10 o'clock. I got to get going. And sometimes it's 9 o'clock. Like, it just, it varies by the day. But then, certainly during that 10 to 3 window, like I said, I work out. Sometimes most days I go around either 9:15 or 12:15 because I want to go while my kid's gone.
Yeah.
And, I take a few minutes and eat lunch. And, and if someone calls me for my network marketing business, I'll stop my VA time and take that call. So it's not like I'm like, no, I cannot talk to you right now. If someone is going to call me during that time, I am going to take that call. So,
and I love that. And I think the way to make it feel, because I think what happens is, so things do happen. What I'm hearing is things do come into that time, right? You started the conversation is like, no, that's the time. But things do, like going to a kickboxing class, answering a phone call, right? Which is all fine and good. But I think you need to then add that back into your VA time. So you don't feel, because in your mind, what you're telling yourself is I work 10 to 3 and like you've worked that out in your mind that you should be able to get all your work done in that time, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is some of those hours are getting, which is awesome. But we just have to be honest with ourselves. And it's not even that, I don't think you're being honest. It's just a lot of times we're not aware, right? We're like, oh, well, I took a call for my network marketing business, and we just don't say, okay, well, I need to put that half hour, then I need to give that half hour back to my VA business,
right.
Whether that comes out of tomorrow morning, whether that comes out of tonight, it's just being more conscious that, because that is a choice, right? That's a Maui choice. You're in control of your time.
Yeah.
You just have to follow up with giving
and
it.
I do think that's true, because like at the end of the day, just recently I've been looking at, because when something's done, I turn it gray and I move it to the top of my list. And, at 3, after I go get her, take her to gymnastics, do dinner, do, homework, do all that stuff. Then a lot of the times I'm like, okay, I'm just tired, but there's still more VA work there. And it's like, and so then I will carry that into my weekend normally. And then I'm putting time in the weekend that in my mind is my time. Right. And so there is a conflict where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to, and that's where I'm trying to, and this is good that this is coming up because I'm being really brutally honest, is I'm trying to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to run these 2 businesses, take care of my daughter. And as a single mom, boy, there's a lot to do. And so I'm trying to have peace about my days and how to get it absolutely all done. But there's always there's always a list that's left.
So partly is to stop telling that story, right? And it can feel hard to stop telling that story when it feels like, well, there isn't enough time, right? But so you go with what you can tell, which is my time is my own, because that is true, right?
Yeah.
My time is my own. And I have more than enough, because the way we talk about time is the way it trickles away too. The same way with money, right? When we say I don't have money, it trickles away. When we say I have more than enough money, it stays around. Right. And the same is true with time. So number one is changing that story. Number two is getting just getting honest with the time, because this is what happens with money too. And this is so interesting because we've kind of shifted the money and now we're shifting the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, you didn't know what your actual numbers were. Remember?
No, I didn't.
Right?
I did not.
You did not. And you thought, I'm making more money by having employees because I'm making up, I'm charging my clients this and I'm paying my employees this, right? And when we actually looked at the numbers, that wasn't true. It was actually costing you money, right?
Yes, a lot.
And so this is where you need to do that same exercise with your time and and allocate everything, right?
Okay.
So allocate every single, because it's easy for us to go, oh, well, kickboxing is only an hour or an hour and 15 minutes, right? But there's at least 15 minutes, even if it's close, there's 15 minutes changing. There's time to get there and there's time to come home. And so most of the time they'll go, oh, it's an hour and 15 minutes, but it's really at least an hour and 45 minutes.
Or 2 hours. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or 2 hours, right. That's coming out. But we often say, oh, it's only an hour and 15 minutes. And we reduce it down to an hour, right. Which just makes us lose an hour of truth time. Right. Mm-hmm. And so just being more clear about that is going to help you see, okay, maybe I do need to put in time Saturday mornings because I'm spending more on Wakaya than I think I am in the middle of the day. Or maybe Saturday mornings is because now I go kickboxing in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do think that's exactly what's happening, is that shifting in the time. And we just talked about this with my VA clients, I literally track time by the second. So the start time and the end time and the start time and the end time. And it takes a lot of time just to log the time.
Yes.
And I have 2 clients that do flat rate billing, and there's so much freedom in but I haven't taken the time to transition everybody, or even offer that to them and say, hey, would you? And what's behind that. And again, I'm like, we're live and we're doing this so honest. I'm like, it's all good. But what's behind that for me is, what if they say no to flat rate billing? Because I want everyone to shift there, but what if they say no? So it's fear.
Yeah. And
that's why I haven't done it. I'm like, I haven't just made time for that. And I was like, okay, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? What if they say
no?
What if they say no?
Well, I guess then they're not supposed to be my client.
Yeah. And, or
there's another client or something.
There's another client, or you say, okay, cool. Then it's, you pay $30 more a month or whatever. You pay a billing fee, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that is what's hard, right? Is navigating that fear. I get it.
Yeah. But why didn't I think of that? Like, hey, if you don't do this flat rate, you're going to pay $30 more. Like, why don't I think of that? Like, you're so smart.
The irony is, I've said it before, but when we're in that mode, we can't hear it. And it's why we have to show up. Even when we're, I always say it's showing up, right? Like, you can't just go through the motion in the enchanted circle. Like, you actually have to show up and have these tough conversations, because it's only now that you're open to hearing it and that we can say, okay, well, there's another option, right? But fear.
So when I didn't show up for all those calls and I didn't script, then we do recorded live coaching. Nice.
Right. Then you just force yourself.
Perfect.
Yeah. Right?
I love you.
I love you. I love your, the courage, right? And it's true. And I think you agreed to this because you knew that you would do it.
I did. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah. So, let's see. Anything else we want to talk about, or you want to, I want to so what's the commitment? So we know that there's flat rate billing.
I knew that was your next question. So by the next time we meet, I'll have been honest with myself about my time and where it's being spent, and really, just get okay with that.
Yeah.
And obviously look at flat rate billing with all my clients and have that implemented. And man, I will save myself some time not logging every single start and stop time.
I love it.
And I am gonna stop saying I don't have time, because I say that A million times a day. There's no question. And I love that I'm going to put this on my computer. My time is my own. I have more than enough time. I'm going to put that on my computer. In fact, I might tattoo it on my left arm so I can see it. Maybe. But I just, and then the commitments are to, come to the Monday call or calls, again, it's a matter of, I look at it and go, oh, I don't have time for this. Well, do I have time not to do it? Like, let's be clear.
Yeah.
And the scripting, that is just a matter of putting myself on my own list, because if you look at my calendar, other than kickboxing and time with my daughter, there is no other Michele time on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so scripting would be one of those Michele time things, or handling, a 401k, or, investing in some assets that I have received, learning what to do with those. Like, those would be Michele time things. And those aren't on my calendar.
And those also make your calendar feel like your own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the important things. It's often a reflection. It's how we think about it. It's how we look at it, but it's also what's true. Like, is it your own? And when it has more things, it becomes your own.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to, cause I have a Google calendar for everything. So I have one, like Danelle has one, and VA clients have one, and you have your own personal one, and like everybody has, like, so I could go to birthdays and just look at birthdays. So today I'm going to I'm going to make one that says my time.
Yes.
And I'm going to make it my favorite color. And right now it's going to be blank. And so when I look at all of the calendars together, of course that could be overwhelming, but that's, where you go, okay, well, I don't need to look at, the parental, who has DP what day. Like, I can unclick that one. Like, that's just going to happen regardless. Like, that's not part of my list of to-dos. This is just life, not list of to-dos. This is life.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that will help me look at it, versus, because when I look at it now and I have everything clicked, I'm like, OMG, the list is so long of everything that has to be done. And I think if I just switch that to like, this is just a full and blessed life, I love that. Like all of my life has a part of my, if everything has its place.
Because your time is your own.
That's right. I like it. So those are some of the commitments.
Cool. And I have one more. I've recently done it with a client that was going through fear. And I say this all the time, but I think people, she even admitted to me, she's like, it took me 2 weeks to feel like I wasn't being a baby, because I was checking in with you every step of the way. Oh, you guys are going to hear the interview. You'll hear this interview probably right before Michelle's. Anyway, so she would check in with every step. And so I think as you look at your time, like every step, I would say just post it in Kajabi and say, hey, I took this step, right? Because when we're afraid, and the fear is,
and that I haven't done in forever.
Yeah. But just with every step with this billing, right? Because there's some fear there about this will go away, right? So just at every step say, okay, I took this one. Okay, I just added up this client's average hours, right? Just one step at a time, and say, I did that so that I can pat you on the back and say, great job. You're moving one step forward. So I would say that as well.
Okay, I can do that. I'm like,
yeah. How are you feeling now?
Better than we started. I was a little nervous at first because I knew what was coming. It's all good. I was like, this is why I do coaching, is because it's worth it. And I could, like I said, I could stay right where I'm at, or I can get help and go forward. And I do want to go forward, because that this or something better, I don't know that this is not what it's supposed to be. And I don't, even better, hey, if it's better, I'm just like totally blessed.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's like, it was just me, my story, my whatever showing up. And I just needed you to shift it 1 degree.
Yeah. Right. Because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yep. I love it.
I'm excited for you.
Me and my Maui mindset are going to have an amazing day.
Yeah, I love it. Any final thoughts you want to share before I wrap up?
Yeah, everyone should come visit in Maui, whether you're there mentally or physically.
I love it. I love it. So I just want to say a super special thank you to Michele Reynolds for being brave and coachable on this call and letting you all get to hear it. I actually had someone ask, they were like, I would like to see some live coaching. I'm like, I don't know that anyone's going to agree to that, but Michele volunteered and I'm so grateful that you all get to hear that. And just excited. And if you feel like it's time for you to get a coach, you can go to cassieparks.com and click on the Enchanted Circle and submit your application and we can play and grow together.
Yep. And it's well worth it.
Definitely. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you, Cassie.
Bye, everybody. Tune in next week and make sure to listen to Michelle's next interview so you can hear how this shift has played out and opened up space in her life.
Thank you for joining us on The More Money Show. To learn the step-by-step process to welcome more money into your life, go to manifest10k.com.